Damn, another failed sequence. David Scora muttered, pushing away from the holographic display. The swirling strands of Draconis DNA mockingly drived into another dead end. He rubbed his tired eyes, the faint hum of the lab equipment a constant drone in his ears. Wait a minute. A new analysis flashed across the screen. Perfect protein matches. And it's a perfect match for the missing gene sequence in the Draconis. My blood, you're saying. My blood can make you fertile. David's voice cracked, a mixture of disbelief and burgeoning terror. The lab doors hissed open, the sound amplified in the sudden silence. Two figures entered, their scaled, reptilian faces impassive. Princess Lyra the elder, her emerald eyes sharp and calculating, took the lead. Beside her, Princess Anya, younger and more visibly armored, exuded a raw, untamed energy. 4 Draconis guards, clad in sleek, obsidian armor, flanked them, their energy weapons glinting under the lab's harsh lights. The air crackled with unspoken tension. Lyra's gaze fixed on David. "David Scora," she said, her voice a low, melodic hum that somehow managed to sound both regal and predatory. "Your unique physiology holds the key to our species' survival. Your blood contains a protein, absent in our own, that can restore fertility to Draconis females." Anya stepped forward, her crimson eyes burning with an intensity that made David instinctively recoil. "He is a gift," she declared, her voice rougher than her sister's, infused with a possessiveness that sent a shiver down David's spine. "And by right of lineage, that gift belongs to me." David swallowed hard, his pupils dilating. "Wait, hold on," he stammered, raising his hands in a gesture of appeasement. "You're saying you want to use my blood for breeding? What are the implications? What are the risks?" The princesses ignored his questions, their focus solely on each other. Lyra turned to her sister, her expression hardening. "Anya, this is not a matter of personal claim. The Draconis are facing extinction. Our birth rates have plummeted for generations. Without intervention, our civilization will collapse within a century." A brief, jarring flash. A panoramic view of the Draconis capital, a sprawling metropolis of towering crystalline structures and advanced technology, all bathed in the eerie glow of a binary sunset. But amidst the gleaming towers, empty cradles swayed gently in the artificial breeze, and deserted playgrounds echoed with the ghosts of laughter. The image vanished as quickly as it appeared. Anya bared her teeth, a flash of sharp, predatory fangs. "Security is paramount, Lyra. As future military leader, my offspring will inherit the strength and cunning necessary to defend our borders. Their bloodline must be pure, untainted. I will be the one to carry the future of the Draconis on my shoulders." David felt a knot forming in his stomach. This wasn't just about saving a species, it was about power, control, and the potential for exploitation. "This is insane," he whispered, more to himself than to them. "I'm not a tool, I'm not some breeding stock." Lyra's gaze softened slightly, though her expression remained firm. "We understand your concerns, human. In exchange for your cooperation, we offer you the entirety of Draconis knowledge and technology. Access to our archives, our scientific advancements, anything you desire to further your own research, specifically in the field of genetics." Anya scoffed. "Knowledge? What good is knowledge when we are dead? I offer you something more, human. A place in Draconis legend. Your name will be spoken with reverence for millennia. Your blood will flow in the veins of our future rulers. You will be a part of my family." The sisters' disagreement escalated, their voices rising, their body language growing more aggressive. Lyra subtly shifted her weight, her hand drifting towards the energy pistol holstered at her hip. Anya mirrored the movement, her eyes narrowed, her tail lashing back and forth in agitation. David noticed that the guards, previously impassive, were now subtly posturing against each other. A silent, deadly dance of shifting loyalties played out before his eyes. The air thickened with unspoken threats. Lyra turned back to David, her voice now filled with a desperate edge. "Choose, David Scora." Choose which path you will take. Choose which sister you will aid. Because if you do not choose, the Draconis will collapse. Our species, our culture, our entire civilization will be lost forever. David stared at them, his mind racing. He was trapped between two powerful, ruthless alien princesses, each vying for control of his very being. He needed time. I need time to think, he stammered. 24 hours, just 24 hours to consider the implications. The sisters exchanged a look, their expressions a mixture of annoyance and calculation. Anya's tail lashed more violently. Lyra pursed her lips. Very well, human, Lyra conceded, her voice tight. You have 24 hours. Choose wisely. The fate of the Draconis rests in your hands. David, still reeling from the revelation about his blood, was ushered into what could only be described as a palatial suite. Polished obsidian floors reflected the soft glow of bioluminescent crystals embedded in the walls, casting the room in an ethereal light. Silken fabrics, cool to the touch, draped over minimalist furniture crafted from an unknown metallic alloy. The air, filtered to a sterile purity, lacked any natural scent, amplifying the sense of artificiality. Exhaustion tugged at him, a stark contrast to the opulent surroundings. He'd have traded it all for a worn lab coat and the familiar scent of ethanol. He barely acknowledged the Draconis attendants who bowed deeply before retreating, leaving him alone. He needed information, not pampering. His mind raced, trying to reconcile the fantastical situation with the scientific reality he knew. The next morning, after a fitful sleep punctuated by vivid, unsettling dreams, David requested a meeting with Lyra and Anya. When they arrived, their scales shimmering in the morning light, he cut straight to the point. I need access to your research facilities. I need to understand the genetic basis of this infertility. Lyra stepped forward, her emerald eyes intense. Of course, human. Anya and I would be honored to personally escort you. Anya's crimson gaze flashed. Indeed, we can ensure you have everything you require. Her tone dripped with subtle challenge. Their competitive intentions were as clear as the polished obsidian floor. David held up a hand, trying to diffuse the simmering tension. I appreciate the offer, but I'd like to see the general research facilities first. Get a sense of what you've already discovered. He needed to maintain a semblance of neutrality to avoid being drawn into their power games. Lyra's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. Anya's jaw flexed. But they both nodded, their agreement reluctant. The Draconis research facility was a marvel of technological advancement. Gleaming chrome instruments hummed with nearly unleashed energy. Data streams flowed across holographic displays. Robotic arms performed intricate manipulations with impossible precision. Yet, as David delved deeper, he noticed a distinct lack of focus. Research was scattered, fragmented. The infertility crisis seemed to be treated as just one of many problems, not the existential threat it clearly was. Anya, eager to impress, led him to a demonstration chamber. A low hum filled the air as a massive energy weapon powered up, bathing the room in an electric blue light. Draconis strength is the key to our future, human, she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. We must be strong to survive. The weapon fired, obliterating a target drone with a single blast. Lyra countered with a visit to the Draconis historical archives. Towering shelves stretched into the shadows, filled with ancient scrolls and crystalline data storage devices. Our culture, our history, our very identity is at risk, she said, her voice soft but firm. Strength alone is not enough. We must also preserve what makes us Draconis. David spent hours poring over Draconis genetic data, his brow furrowed in concentration. He noticed a specific repeating sequence within the fertility gene that appeared to be degrading over generations, becoming shorter and less stable. It was as if the gene was slowly unraveling. That evening, Lyra presented David with a small, intricately carved box made of shimmering blue crystal. This belonged to my ancestor, a renowned geneticist, she explained. I thought you might appreciate its historical significance. Anya, not to be outdone, offered a beautifully crafted weapon, perfectly balanced and deadly efficient. A warrior's tool, she said, her crimson eyes locking with his. For protection should you ever need it. David politely declined both gifts. I appreciate the thought, but I really need to focus on my research. I can't afford any distractions. The sisters exchanged a look of barely concealed frustration. Suddenly, an alarm blared through the facility. A medical emergency. A pregnant draconis was experiencing severe complications. The fertility crisis had just become a very real, very immediate threat. David, drawing on his knowledge of human physiology, suggested a treatment protocol involving a carefully calibrated dose of synthetic hormones and a specific sequence of amino acids. The draconis doctors, initially skeptical, eventually relented, allowing him to proceed. Hours later, after a tense vigil, the pregnant draconis stabilized. The crisis had been averted, at least for now. A collective sigh of relief swept through the facility. Lyra and Anya approached David, their expressions softened with gratitude. "You have saved a life, human," Lyra said softly, her hand gently brushing his. "You've given our people hope," Anya added, her gaze intense. In that moment, standing between the two sisters, David felt a strange connection, a shared sense of purpose. Anya seized the opportunity. "We should form a formal alliance, human. Draconis can offer military support and resources for your research. A quicker solution benefits us all." Her crimson eyes burned with ambition. Lyra countered, her voice measured. "We must proceed with caution, Anya. Ethical considerations and long-term stability are paramount. Rushing could have unforeseen consequences." The sisters were locked in a silent battle, their contrasting ideologies clashing. David, weighing his options, sided with Lyra. "I agree. A cautious approach is best. We need to understand the underlying mechanisms before we start experimenting." Anya's scales darkened, her crimson eyes flashing with anger. "You choose." "Poorly," she hissed, her voice imbued with barely suppressed rage. She turned abruptly and strode out of the room, her departure heavy with unspoken threats. As David returned to his research, he noticed something he had missed before, a previously unknown genetic marker linked to the fertility gene. It appeared to be exhibiting signs of instability in the developing embryos. A new, even more dangerous challenge had emerged. "My blood, you're saying?" "My blood can make you fertile." David's voice cracked, a mixture of disbelief and burgeoning terror. Princess Lyra's emerald eyes met his, her expression a chilling mix of hope and possessiveness. "Not just me, human," a deeper voice purred. Princess Anya stepped forward, her scales gleaming crimson in the lab's sterile light. "My sister believes she deserves the privilege more." Anya turned to the assembled draconis. "While Princess Lyra wastes time on ethical debates, our people dwindle. I say, let us embrace strength. Let us use what the human offers to restore our numbers and our glory." A ripple of agreement passed through the crowd. But can we truly trust the science of a species so fragile? Anya's words dripped with venom, her gaze locked on David. Motivated to prove Anya wrong, David sequestered himself in the lab, the hum of the genetic sequencers a constant companion. Days blurred into nights as he pored over draconis DNA, driven by a need to both validate his work and silence Anya's condescending voice in his head. He pushed himself, fueled by caffeine and the gnawing fear that he was failing them all. Finally, he founded a new, more aggressive form of the unstable genetic marker, one that explained the recent mutations. It was far more virulent than anything he'd seen before. One evening, exhausted and bleary-eyed, David decided to take a break. As he walked through the palace gardens, the humid air thick with the scent of exotic flora, he overheard hushed voices coming from a secluded alcove. Peeking around a corner, he saw Anya in deep conversation with a group of disgruntled draconis nobles, their faces etched with discontent. The conversation was imbued with talk of traditional values and restoring the draconis way. hinting at a potential conspiracy brewing beneath the surface of the court. Later that night, Lyra sought him out in his chambers. Her scales seemed to shimmer with an inner anxiety. Anya grows impatient, David. She is allying herself with dangerous elements within the court, those who yearn for the old ways. Be careful. Her voice was low, urgent. She sees you as a tool, but also as a threat. As the days passed, David began experiencing mild but persistent headaches. They throbbed behind his eyes, a dull ache that seemed to intensify whenever he was near the Draconis. He dismissed them at first, attributing them to stress and lack of sleep, but a nagging worry persisted. Was it the Draconis atmosphere, some subtle biological incompatibility? The uncertainty gnawed at him. Anya, never one to miss an opportunity, orchestrated a grand public event. Draconis warriors, clad in ceremonial armor, demonstrated their strength and agility in a dazzling display of martial prowess. Anya, perched on a raised platform, her voice amplified by the palace's crystal resonance system, extolled the virtues of physical strength and unwavering loyalty. The message was clear. Humans, with their perceived weakness, were inferior. David felt a wave of resentment wash over him, but he kept his expression neutral. In stark contrast, Lyra invited David to a private tour of the Draconis art collection. The gallery was filled with intricate sculptures, vibrant tapestries, and ancient artifacts, each telling a story of Draconis history and culture. Lyra shared personal stories behind some of the pieces, attempting to connect with him on an emotional and intellectual level. She spoke of her hopes for the future, a future where Draconis and humans could coexist in harmony. During his research, David stumbled upon some obscure texts detailing ancient Draconis traditions. He discovered that ritualistic bloodletting was a common practice, a cultural ritual believed to be linked to fertility and the strengthening of the bloodline. The realization sent a chill down his spine. Could there be an ancient, deeper connection between human blood and Draconis fertility than he initially understood? His unsettling thoughts were interrupted by a summons from the medical bay. The pregnant Draconis patient, the one who had initially responded so well to his treatment, had experienced a severe relapse. Her skin was now covered in grotesque, bony protrusions. Her breathing was labored. The genetic instability was spiraling out of control, creating new and frightening mutations. David felt a surge of guilt and desperation. Driven by a desperate need to save the patient and prove his methods, David proposed a new treatment, a modified version of his blood serum designed to target the specific mutations. But his proposal was met with resistance from both Lyra and Anya. Lyra, her face etched with worry, feared that further experimentation could lead to even more unpredictable mutations. "We cannot risk making her condition worse, David," she pleaded. Anya, on the other hand, saw the situation as an opportunity. Why waste precious resources on a single patient? This treatment must be reserved for those who are worthy, those who will contribute to the strength and glory of the Draconis. Despite their objections, David, with the help of a few trusted Draconis scientists, managed to administer the modified serum. The results were immediate. The patient's breathing stabilized. The grotesque protrusions began to recede, but the relief was short-lived. The mutations were only temporarily suppressed. The underlying genetic instability remained. While working late one night, David overheard a coded conversation between two Draconis technicians. Decrypting the message, he discovered that the rogue faction was planning to kidnap him. Their goal: to weaponize his blood to create super soldiers, Draconis warriors with enhanced strength and regenerative abilities. The threat had escalated. Terrified, David confided in Lyra, revealing the rogue faction's plan and his growing fears about the genetic instability. As he spoke, he saw a flicker of understanding in her eyes, a shared sense of vulnerability. A moment of trust and intimacy blossomed between them, a connection that transcended their different species. Anya, ever watchful, discovered Lyra and David's closeness. She stormed into Lyra's chambers, her scales flushed with anger. "You conspire against me. You use the human to undermine my authority." The sister rivalry, simmering beneath the surface for so long, finally erupted. Lyra, determined to protect David and find a solution to the genetic crisis, decided to take action. Together, she and David created a secret, secure lab hidden deep within the palace's labyrinthine corridors. They worked in secrecy, developing a more stable cure, hidden from Anya and the rogue faction. Their partnership deepened, forged in the crucible of shared danger and mutual respect. Driven by a hunch, David decided to analyze his own blood. He ran a series of tests, comparing his genetic code to that of the Draconis. He discovered an unexpected reaction, a subtle but significant interaction between his blood and the Draconis genome. It was the same reaction that was causing the headaches. It was also, he realized with a jolt of horror, somehow linked to the mutations. But the most startling discovery was yet to come. After deciphering a series of encrypted messages hidden within the Draconis genetic code, David uncovered a shocking truth. The leader of the rogue faction, the one who sought to weaponize his blood, was none other than the long-lost father of Lyra and Anya, a disgraced Draconis noble who had been banished for his radical beliefs. His very existence had been kept secret, a dark stain on the royal bloodline. The faint lavender glow of the Draconis plant extract pulsed in the vial. "The binding affinity is significantly improved," David breathed, adjusting the holographic microscope. Tiny tendrils of light, representing the repaired genetic code, danced across the screen. Lyra, her emerald eyes reflecting the glow, nodded slowly. "It's not a complete solution, but it's progress, more than we've seen in months." A flicker of genuine hope crossed her reptilian features, quickly masked by her usual stoicism. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed through the lab. The reinforced door buckled inward, showering them with sparks and twisted metal. Red alert klaxons blared. "Rogue faction," Lyra hissed, shoving David behind a console. "They found us." Without hesitation, Lyra activated a hidden panel, revealing a narrow passage behind the equipment. "This leads to the old palace catacombs," she yelled over the din of laser fire. "Follow me, and try to keep up, human." They plunged into the darkness, the passage barely wide enough for Lyra's scaled frame. David, scrambling behind her, felt the cold, damp stone against his skin. "How do you know about this place?" he gasped. "Every Draconis royal knows the palace's secrets," she replied, her voice tight with urgency. "It's a matter of survival." Ahead, a laser grid shimmered, blocking their path. David, remembering his basic chemistry training, grabbed a discarded canister of nutrient solution from a nearby alcove. "Stand back." He hurled the canister at the grid. The solution vaporized on contact, creating a thick, obscuring cloud of steam. The lasers sputtered and died. "Let's go." They burst into a vast chamber lit by flickering torches, but the respite was brief. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind them. News of the attack spread quickly through the palace. In the Grand Council chamber, Anya addressed the assembled Draconis, her voice ringing with righteous anger. "Lyra has squandered our resources on a fanciful human cure, and now our security has been compromised. This attack proves her incompetence. We cannot afford such weakness." The council, visibly shaken, murmured in agreement. The recent births had been marred by genetic instability, scales erupting on the infant's skin, uncontrollable bursts of aggression. Fear, like a venom, coursed through the Draconis court. "Therefore," Anya continued, her gaze sweeping across the room, "I propose that I be granted temporary authority over all research and security efforts. We must secure our future, even if it means taking drastic measures." The motion passed swiftly. Anya, her eyes gleaming with ambition, had seized her opportunity. That night, David lay in his chambers, his head throbbing. The visions were becoming more frequent, more intense. He saw ancient Draconis warriors, clad in bone armor, locked in brutal combat. He saw the twisting strands of their genetic code, the primal instincts that drove them. It was overwhelming, disturbing, and strangely familiar. He stumbled to his research station, pulling up the data on the Draconis plant. As he examined its molecular structure, a realization struck him. The plant contained a unique compound, a protein that reacted specifically to a component in his blood. It was as if the plant was designed to interact with him. Meanwhile, in the royal gardens, Lyra confronted Anya, her voice low and dangerous. "This was your doing, wasn't it? You orchestrated the attack on the lab." Anya scoffed. "Don't be absurd, Lyra. I simply seized an opportunity. You were too blinded by your pet project to see the danger. This isn't about the cure, is it?" Lyra pressed. "It's about power." Anya's expression hardened. "Perhaps, but let's be honest, sister. You're not just trying to save our people. You're infatuated with that human. You're betraying your own kind for a creature who doesn't even understand us." Back in his chambers, David sifted through the chaotic images in his mind, trying to make sense of the visions. The warriors, the genetic code. He realized the rogue faction wasn't just trying to weaponize his blood. They wanted to revert Draconis society to its more primal, aggressive state to unleash the ancient warriors within. A cold dread washed over him. He was interrupted by a frantic message from Lyra. "David, we have a problem. The informant." It was Zara. Zara, one of Lyra's most trusted personal guards. The betrayal cut deep. The next day, the first trials of the stabilized extract began. Hope turned to horror. Instead of calming the subjects, the extract induced uncontrollable bursts of rage. One Draconis nearly tore apart his observation cell before being subdued. Anya seized the opportunity. Addressing the council, she declared, "This human cure is a failure. It's making our people more dangerous. I demand that all research be halted immediately and that David Scora be handed over to the council for evaluation." Lyra, her face pale, watched helplessly as the council members nodded in agreement. She knew she had to protect David, but her duty to her people was paramount. I cannot hand him over," she stammered, "but I must publicly distance myself from him for the good of the Draconis." David, overhearing the exchange, felt a wave of despair wash over him. He was responsible for this chaos. He was putting Lyra in an impossible position. He had to leave. As he packed his meager belongings, he accessed a secure communication channel, sending a coded message to his superiors on Earth. He had discovered something far more dangerous than genetic infertility. The rogue faction had been in contact with the krill, a species known for its mastery of genetic manipulation and its ruthless expansionist policies. The threat to the Draconis was far greater than anyone realized. Before he could slip out of the palace, the lights flickered and died. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor. He heard the hiss of plasma torches cutting through metal. The rogue faction had come for him. He was trapped. David awoke to the metallic tang of blood and fear. The air hung thick and cold, heavy with the hum of machinery he couldn't quite place. His head throbbed and his limbs felt heavy, unresponsive. He lay on a cold metal slab in a dimly lit cell, the walls a dull, seamless gray. Restraints, more like energy cuffs, encircled his wrists and ankles, glowing with a faint, pulsating blue light. They hummed against his skin, a constant reminder of his captivity. They were suppressing his strength, he realized, the familiar ache of atrophied muscles already teeting in. A voice, raspy and cruel, echoed from a speaker hidden in the wall. "Welcome back, human. I trust your accommodations are adequate." The speaker hissed open, revealing a tall, scarred Draconis. Its scales were a deep, menacing obsidian, and its eyes burned with fanatical zeal. He wore the insignia of the rogue faction, a stylized serpent coiled around a dagger. "My name is Vorlag," the Draconis said, stepping into the cell. "And you, human, are about to become our greatest weapon. We will extract every drop of your precious blood, and create a serum that will restore the Draconis to our rightful place, a race of conquerors, not whimpering supplicants. He circled David, his tail dragging against the metal floor. The princesses have softened us, made us weak. Your blood, it will reverse that. It will unleash the primal fury that lies dormant within us. Meanwhile, in the palace, Lyra stood before a holographic display, her face etched with concern. Publicly, she had distanced herself from David, denouncing him as a pawn of the court. But in the privacy of her chambers, she was a whirlwind of activity. Her fingers danced across the console, accessing encrypted channels, contacting her loyal agents within the palace guard. "Report," she commanded, her voice sharp and precise. "What have you discovered about the rogue faction's movements?" "They've secured a research vessel, Your Highness," a voice crackled back, "and they're diverting medical supplies, specifically blood extraction equipment. Their leader, Vorlag, has been seen meeting with outsiders." Lyra's scales tightened. Outsiders. This was more than just a power grab. This was treason. "Continue to monitor their activity," she ordered, "and report any further developments discreetly." Back in the research lab, Anya oversaw the mass production of the stabilizing agent, her face pale and drawn. She ignored the reports of side effects, the whispers of genetic instability. She had to save her people. She would save her people, even if it meant cutting corners, even if it meant overlooking a few complications. David, meanwhile, was meticulously analyzing his restraints. He couldn't brute force his way out. The energy field was too strong. But he was a scientist, and energy fields had weaknesses. He focused his mind, visualizing the flow of energy, searching for a flaw in the design. He noticed a slight fluctuation in the field's frequency near the base of the cuff, a potential point of vulnerability. In the rogue faction's makeshift laboratory, captured Draconis were being subjected to Vorlag's serum. The results were horrifying. The once docile creatures writhed in agony as their scales darkened, their eyes turned blood red, and their bodies contorted into grotesque, bestial forms. They roared with primal rage, lashing out at anything that moved. Lyra received another report from her agent. "Anya is using a modified version of the stabilizing agent, Your Highness," the voice said, his tone tinged with fear. "She's amplifying its aggressive side effects, creating super soldiers." Lyra's blood ran cold. Anya was playing with fire, and she was about to burn the entire kingdom down. David, using a smuggled piece of metal he'd found hidden in his cell, carefully manipulated the energy conduits near the base of his restraints. A spark, a surge, and the energy field flickered, momentarily weakening. It wasn't a full release, but it was enough. Anya stormed into Lyra's chambers, her eyes blazing with anger. "You're undermining me, Lyra," she accused. "You're questioning my authority. You sympathize with that human, don't you?" "I'm trying to prevent a catastrophe, Anya," Lyra retorted, her voice cold and hard. "Your recklessness is going to destroy us all." The genetic instability was spreading like wildfire. Reports flooded in from across the kingdom, children born with grotesque mutations, adults succumbing to fits of uncontrollable rage, entire communities descending into chaos. Panic gripped the Draconis population. During a blood extraction procedure, David seized his opportunity. He feigned weakness, then with a surge of adrenaline fueled by desperation, he slammed his head against the guard's faceplate. The Draconis staggered back, momentarily stunned. David ripped the blood extraction tubes from his arm, spraying blood across the room, and lunged for the door. He scrambled through the corridors, sabotaging serum production equipment as he went, smashing vials and short-circuiting control panels. Lyra accessed the rogue faction's communication logs, deciphering the coded messages. Her eyes widened in horror. They weren't just planning a coup. They were in contact with an outside species, a race of ruthless conquerors, and they were planning a full-scale invasion. As David fled through the chaotic corridors, he encountered the transformed Draconis. Their eyes burned with savage hunger, Their claws dripped with blood. They lunged at him, snarling and hissing. He fought them off with desperate ferocity, but their numbers were overwhelming. He felt a pang of guilt, a crushing weight of responsibility. This was his fault. His blood had unleashed this horror. Anya, realizing the extent of the genetic instability, raced to shut down the serum production. But the rogue faction guards, loyal to Vorlag, blocked her path. "You can't stop us, Princess," one of them sneered. "The revolution has begun." David, using a hidden communication device he'd managed to salvage, sent a coded message to Lyra. "Invasion imminent. Vorlag working with coded species name. Research vessel coordinates. Lyra, receiving David's message, knew she had no choice. She defied Anya's orders, gathered her loyal forces, and prepared to launch an attack on the rogue faction's base. It was a gamble, a desperate attempt to save her kingdom, even if it meant triggering a civil war. Before David could fully escape, he was recaptured by Vorlag's forces. The rogue faction leader smiled cruelly. "We have a little surprise for you, human," he hissed. An experimental serum derived from the coded species name's genetic code. It will enhance your blood's properties, make you even more potent. He plunged the needle into David's arm, injecting the glowing green liquid. Anya, witnessing the chaos and the rogue faction's betrayal, secretly released a small group of Lyra's loyalists. "Help him," she whispered. "Save him, and save us all." David felt the serum coursing through his veins, burning like fire. His vision blurred, his muscles spasmed, and a strange, alien energy surged within him. His eyes snapped open, glowing with an unnatural emerald light, and he realized with a chilling certainty that the Draconis around him were now drawn to him in a way they never had been before. Lyra's forces arrived at the rogue faction's base, a sprawling complex carved into the mountainside. They were met with a hail of laser fire and the terrifying roars of the transformed Draconis, their eyes burning with unnatural fury. The battle had begun. The ground trembled as Lyra's remaining forces clashed with the transformed Draconis and the rogue faction soldiers. Energy blasts ripped through the air, vaporizing rock and flesh alike. The Draconis, weakened by the serum and outgunned, fell in droves. Hope dwindled with each passing moment. David, the experimental serum coursing through his veins, felt power surge within him, but it was a chaotic, untamed force. His senses screamed, every nerve ending alight. The restraints shattered as he flexed, the metal groaning in protest before snapping entirely. He was free, but barely in control. Anya, witnessing the carnage, her face etched with horror, snarled. The promise of power and control the rogue faction had offered turned to ash in her mouth. Disgust propelled her into action. With a guttural cry, she lunged at the nearest energy weapon emplacement, disabling it with a precise strike, then turned her fury on the remaining emplacements, freeing the captured Draconis soldiers. "Enough!" she roared, her voice echoing across the battlefield. David, overwhelmed by the cacophony of the battle, focused, drawing on his scientific training. He filtered the noise, the chaos, honing in on the unique energy signature of the serum. It was unstable, erratic. The key, he realized, lay in the DNA of the outside species used in its creation. It was a mismatched lock, forcing the Draconis genome into a violent, unsustainable configuration. A searing pain ripped through Lyra's side. She stumbled, clutching the wound. A rogue faction soldier advanced, weapon raised, but before he could fire, a blast of energy incinerated him. Anya stood over Lyra, panting, her eyes filled with a fierce protectiveness. "Sister," she said, her voice hoarse, "live." Lyra, wounded but alive, saw David struggling to control his newfound power. She reached for him, her hand finding his. "David," she gasped, "focus. Control the serum, our people. Save them." David closed his eyes, channeling his compassion, his scientific knowledge, his very humanity. He visualized the Draconis genome, the mismatched DNA, the chaotic energy. He imagined the correct configuration, the perfect fit. With a surge of will, he projected his intent, his knowledge, into the serum within him. The chaotic energy subsided, replaced by a steady, controlled flow. He reached out, touching a transformed Draconis. The scales receded, the distorted features smoothed, the madness in their eyes faded, replaced by recognition. Anya, her face grim, pulled David aside. "The rogue faction," she said. "They planned this. The genetic chaos. It was meant to destabilize our society, allow them to seize power. But the cure, they intended to modify it, use your blood to create a weapon." Guided by Anya, David and Lyra infiltrated the rogue faction leader's command center, a hidden bunker beneath the battlefield. Inside, holographic displays revealed a chilling truth. A collaboration with a hostile alien race, the Krill, who coveted the Draconis homeworld. The Krill invasion fleet was already en route, expecting a weakened, fractured society. The rogue faction leader, a scarred veteran named Vorlag, emerged from the shadows, a plasma pistol in his hand. "Traitors," he snarled. "You will not stop us from claiming what is rightfully ours." He fired. Anya, with a speed born of desperation, threw herself in front of David and Lyra, intercepting the blast. The energy ripped through her, leaving a smoking hole in her chest. She crumpled to the ground, her eyes meeting Lyra's. "Sister," she whispered, "protect them. Protect our people." With her last breath, she transferred control of her forces to Lyra. David, grief and rage warring within him, knew what he had to do. He couldn't save Anya, but he could honor her sacrifice. He focused his mind, drawing on his scientific knowledge, his understanding of the Draconis genome, his own unique human biology. He combined his blood with his scientific modifications, creating a universal cure for the genetic instability, a cure that could be administered through the Draconis atmospheric processors. As the cure spread, restoring balance to the Draconis population, the Krill invasion fleet emerged from warp space, a swarm of black ships blotting out the stars. They expected an easy victory, a shattered, leaderless society ripe for conquest. Lyra, now in sole command, her heart heavy with grief but her drive unwavering, united the Draconis factions. She rallied her people, reminding them of their strength, their cunning, their loyalty. She deployed David's modified tech, turning the tide of the battle. David, working tirelessly, developed a biological weapon that targeted the Krill invaders, exploiting a weakness in their genetic code he had discovered during his initial research. The weapon, dispersed through the atmosphere, caused the Krill to rapidly degenerate, their bodies turning to dust. The Draconis, with David's help, fought with a ferocity born of desperation and a renewed sense of unity. They repelled the invasion, proving their resilience, their adaptability, their unwavering persistence to survive. In the aftermath of the battle, Lyra, her face weary but her eyes shining with hope, addressed her people. "We have suffered greatly," she said, "but we have emerged stronger. We will learn from our mistakes. We will build a new society based on cooperation, on scientific progress, on the principles of justice and equality." She established a new form of government, a council of representatives from all Draconis factions, with David as a key advisor, his wisdom and knowledge invaluable. David, standing beside Lyra, looked out at the recovering Draconis homeworld, a world scarred by war but filled with hope. He mourned Anya's sacrifice, but he understood that the needs of the many outweighed the needs of the few. He chose to stay with Lyra on the Draconis homeworld, embracing his role in shaping their future, a future built on interspecies understanding, scientific innovation, and a shared commitment to peace.